This tutorial introduces the CageEdit command, which can be used to distort surfaces in a very arbitrary and freeform fashion. Alright, this basic tutorial will walk through how to distort a simple surface using the CageEdit command. The CageEdit command is not the only command that you can do this with. There is also the SoftEdit command that will allow you some of this functionality, but the CageEdit command will give you a lot of control over specific points of your surface. The CageEdit command needs two main things, and that is the object to distort, which will be this one, and then it also needs control geometry, which is what it will use to define the points that control the distortion of your captive object, which is what this is called. So when I type in CageEdit, that's the first thing it asks for, is this captive object. So I'll select this, and then I can either provide it with existing control geometry, or I can define new control geometry. The simplest way to do this would be to create a rectangle, since I have a flat surface here. And if I want my control points to match up with my surface, I'll make that rectangle the same size. Then it's going to ask me how many points in each direction I want to generate so that I can control the distortion. I set that to 8 here. It defaults to 4. The higher the number, the more points, but and the finer grained the control you'll have, but it'll also be more difficult to get fluid distortions. But I will keep this option, and you'll see it's created some additional geometry here. One last thing it asks about is the region to edit. This is mainly affects when you're editing multiple objects with a single cage, so that doesn't really apply in this situation. So I'm just going to accept the default. Now you can see it's created a bunch of points that I can now use to control the distortion of this object. The simplest way to do this is going to be with the gumball, and that allows you to very simply control which dimensions you are doing or you are making your distortions in. However, it can also be restricting in that those distortions are not very freeform. You can use these paddles here. This is called a paddle, and you can distort in two dimensions at once using that paddle, and that can be helpful. You may just want to use individual points to distort the surface, or you can select multiple and then move them all at once. Another way to move these points would be to switch to a side view. So if I switch to the front view, now I can do this, or I can without the gumball, I could turn the gumball off, and I can grab points and just start to drag them arbitrarily. But this is equivalent to using one of those paddles on the gumball. All right. So just a couple tips with using this. These are control points, and so they can be turned on and off using this button here. If I right click, it turns off the control points. If I want to get them back, I have to be careful about what object I choose here. If I choose the object I distorted and then turn on the control points, it's going to give me hundreds, if not more, control points that correspond to the distorted surface, which is not what I want if I want to go back to my control geometry. So I can turn those back off by right-clicking on this button. And then if I click on the edge, it's going to ask me which of these two geometries I want to use or turn the points on for. And if I select the control geometry, then turn on the points, then it's going to take me back to that cage that it created before, and I can go back to working with the distortions as I was before. So that's all there is to distorting a surface. There are other ways to use the CageEdit tool, including using other control geometry and distorting solids or volumes with multiple layers of points in the z-axis. So you can experiment with those options, but there are other resources that are linked to as well here for you to explore this further. Thanks for watching.